Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. Amy here. I come to you today with a heavy heart. This is my first attempt at filming a video without my Bella. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll know that we lost our Bella a little over a month ago now. July 17th, we had to lay her to rest. It happened so fast, y'all. It was just, oh my gosh, I swore I was okay to do this. I don't think I mentioned it to y'all at all, just because I was doing more vlogs and I wasn't really, if Bella was there, she was there, in the filming, but towards the end, we did notice some things, just herself declining. She wasn't following me around as often as she was. Like, she was like my shadow. Now she would still like be in the same room with me if I was in my bedroom. She was there with me, but she had certain spots. She rarely got up onto the bed with me. I don't think she could really jump anymore. Although as I was watching her during this time, I did notice her like jump from level to level kind of thing. So I was like, oh, okay, so maybe she's, maybe she's okay. Anyway, moving forward, like I said, we noticed a decline in Bella. But it seemed to happen so quickly. It all started when she couldn't keep anything down. She couldn't keep her food down, she couldn't keep water down. And this had started like on a Thursday evening. And I watched her throughout the day on Friday as I worked. Every time I tried to feed her, it would just come up. She wasn't acting weird. She was acting like everything was fine. So I figured, okay, well, maybe she's got, maybe she's, I don't know, maybe honestly, I don't know. I don't know. I was clueless. So at the end of Friday, when she still couldn't eat, and like she wanted to eat, she would go to her food bowl and like she would want to eat, but then she'd take a couple bites and it would just come out. I brought her in. They did blood work, to the extent. Couldn't find anything really wrong with her. Asked me if they could do x-rays. I went ahead and I told them yes. So they did find a blockage in her intestines, a hairball in her intestines. So the vet told me that it probably couldn't go anywhere. Actually asked me if I noticed how she'd been using the litter box. I'm like, well, I mean, I clean it out every morning, but I can't tell you if I noticed a poop today or not, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I wasn't really paying attention to that. So anyway, long story short, they put her on a laxative, gave her a nausea shot and some penicillin because there did seem to be like some inflammation in her intestines. So just in case she had an infection, they gave her the penicillin. So we came home. She was lethargic for the whole weekend. She would start to move around. She would not eat. I'd bring her to her food bowl. She would eat treats. And she was keeping it down. A couple times I saw her gag, but it never came up. But the vet told me the nausea medication is not gonna make her. It's not gonna come up. It's gonna like suppress that. And they had told me that once this wears off, if she continues to throw up, bring her back in. Anyway, so I had told myself on Monday I was going to call them because, I was worried. But the vet ended up calling me before I got a chance to call them, checked on Bella. And actually, as I was watching Bella throughout the day on Monday, they called me at lunch and I was watching, and I was planning on calling them at lunch. As I was watching her though, she ate that morning and kept it down. and she seemed to be like somewhat getting back to her old self. So I told the vet all this when she called, and she told me just to continue watching her. I thought I heard something. She's probably here with us in spirit, I'm sure. I continued to watch her during the week, and she slowly but surely came back into like Bella, and we had like maybe a good weekend. Like the rest of the week was good, and then going into that weekend she was fine. I think that was the 4th of July or something that week. The following week I noticed that she was walking around a little bit slower. Seemed like she was just kind of disoriented, like she didn't really know her surroundings. She was kind of just sitting in the hall sometimes, just kind of staring at the wall, or she'd just be sitting in the hall just staring. She would yowl. She started yowling a lot. Bella was a very talkative cat, and she would yowl when she wanted my attention, but this was extreme. We didn't know if like maybe she was getting dementia. Bella was 15 years old. She turned 15 in March this year. She was born in March of 2009. I had her since she was a teeny tiny baby at 4 weeks old. I actually made her a little album. Well, I made it for myself, you know, because we had so many pictures of Bella. I had like close to 500 pictures of Bella, and I'm pretty sure we have more, but I ended up making an album. But this was Bella right when we got her at 4 weeks. Sweet little baby. She was full of fleas, so I gave her a little gentle little bath, and you know, because she was still too young to like I didn't want to put any chemicals on her. And that was her after her bath. She was sleeping. So she's my baby, y'all. She was really my baby. And it's been really, really hard. Anyway, we were actually supposed to go out of town on a camping trip with my brother, and my mom was gonna come take care of Bella. She wasn't gonna stay here. She was just gonna, I told her, like, you know, just please keep a closer eye on her. She's, you know, she's being very slow. I tried to make all her areas more accessible. Like I put her bed on the floor. You know, I was just trying to make things more accessible to her. I didn't know if maybe she was in pain of some sort from arthritis. They can't talk to us, so we don't know. And that's another thing I noticed. Like I said, Bella was a very talkative cat. She stopped talking, and I was planning on bringing her to the vet when we got back from our trip. Everything was just happening so fast, and I wasn't expecting, you know, the worst. I was just thinking dementia, maybe she's losing her sight, she probably has arthritis. She was 15 years old. The morning that we were supposed to leave, everything was going according to plan. I fed her, she ate. Like I said, towards the end, I had to coax her to where her food was at. It was like she didn't know where she was going. Well, little did we know that she was going blind. Ready to eat? Yeah, let's go. This way. This way. This way, Bella. I think I didn't witness it that morning, but when I went to check on her, I had checked on her twice already. After she ate, I checked on her, and then I went to fix my coffee, and I went to check on her again, and I found her underneath a chair in my office, and she was peeing, and she had just like this look of terror on her face, and she just kind of started spazzing, and like she didn't know what to do. And I just kept telling her, Bella, it's okay, it's okay. I was trying to be like a soft voice, she started yowling. Then she threw up. I'm getting like details here. I think she probably had a minor seizure at that time, and I didn't know. She became very frantic. We called the vet. We went in right away. This was on a Wednesday. This was Wednesday, July 17th. When we got to the vet, she started seizing in her kennel, and they had to come and ask us if they could sedate her because they could not control the seizure. Another long story short, after many consultations with the doctor and just things that it could be, we let them do more blood work, even though she had just had some, just to make sure there wasn't any type of toxicity. Kept asking me, like, was I positive that she could have gotten into anything? I was like, I'm not 100% positive, but I don't think at all. Like, I don't have anything out. I don't keep real plants in the house. No type of chemicals are, stowed away, and but she can't get to any of those things. But I don't know, maybe I have no clue. So yes, do the blood work. Let's just make sure it's not there. No toxicity in her blood. The only thing we didn't do that the vet offered, and like you said, I have to offer this. He said he thought it was brain tumor that was probably just progressed over time, and it happens like that when you don't know what it is. He offered to schedule her an MRI at LSU. We declined, only because he did tell us, he wasn't telling us that. I think he was just trying to make us aware that it was going to be costly, and being that she was an elderly cat, she, one, may not even make it to LSU to do the MRI, and two, if it is a brain tumor and we decide to do the surgery, she may not make it. Michael and I decided and we were not going to go that route. He did offer to do some sort of like rounds of medication throughout the day and give us feedback. So we did that. By that evening, we did have many conversations with the doctor throughout the day, because he would call us and give us an update after he would try this medication. Every time the medication would wear off, she'd go right back into a seizure. All in all, Michael and I decided that it was just time to lay her to rest. I hate saying that. We didn't know what kind of life she would have afterwards. She was blind. It was a very tough decision to make. And to this day, it's still like I feel guilty. But we knew that she probably wouldn't have much of a way of life. We had to take all these things in. It was very hard for both of us. We did converse with the doctor, of course. In the end, we just thought this was best for her. I know she's in a better place, and she can see, and she's having the best afterlife ever. I miss her so much. Michael's banging around in the kitchen. I didn't think it would be this hard, but I miss her so much. I've never felt so sad and just heartbroken in my life. I've lost loved ones, grandparents, aunts, uncles. But this was just such a deep loss for me. It's really taking a toll. I still walk in the house and I want to call out to her. I let myself most of the time. I still talk to her because I know she's with me every day. Anyway, just wanted to let y'all know, because I know y'all have been here with me and Bella through this YouTube journal. I think she's been with me since I started YouTube. And she's always in my videos. She's usually around me somewhere. Either somewhere where you can't see her, or she's sitting in the back of me. But yeah, it's been hard. But I've been doing well. So, as the title of this video is, what I've been reading lately, I just wanted to catch y'all up on what I have been reading lately. The last I talked to y'all, I did the Summerween. I had the Summerween vlog, and I read a couple books in there. July was, even though it was not a good month for me, book-wise, it was a good month. I sort of like immersed myself into books. I needed somewhere to go. I needed someone else's story. I needed to be somewhere else. So I read a good many books for the month of July. I have a little stack here. I know it's not much, but for me, I read a total of 12 books. Well, read slash listened to a total of 12 books in July. So that was really good. Anyway, since I haven't been on social media at all or have done any videos, I thought I would catch up with y'all here and talk about some of the books that I have been reading. So let me go clean this up and we're gonna talk about some books. Okay, let's do this. All right, so I did end up reading A Male Male Romance. This is actually the third book in the Lost Boys series by Jessie Walker. This is Every Breath After. I had to think for a second. Oh my gosh, y'all, this was, I don't know, delicious. It was just the best thing, and I think it was the book that I needed at the time. I didn't want anything. I was not say I was in a dark place, but I was feeling I needed something to like give me that control over what I was feeling, and this book definitely did it. It does have some trigger warnings, so I do advise to go to the author's page, Jessie Walker, and look at the trigger warnings for this book. In fact, for the whole series, this whole series is very deep. There is some dark times, some dark issues, you know, drug abuse, alcohol abuse. These are some deep characters that have real emotions, and not that, maybe real emotions is not the word I'm looking for, but it just feels also real. Like I felt like I feel like I know these characters. So this is actually Mason and Jeremy's story. I don't want to get too much into this because you really have to read the whole series to really enjoy this book. In my opinion, you have to kind of get to know these characters in the background. And I have been rooting for this character, or these characters, to like have their own story. I wasn't sure what the story was going to be because Mason is considered straight, and you get that vibe from the first two books, which is Where There's a Will and When There's a Way. Is that the name of the books? Yes, the first book is Where There's a Will, and then the second book is If There's a Way. If there's, not when there's a way, if there's a way. So that is Will and Waylon's story, and that's how the series kind of starts us off with their story. Their story is very long, and I felt like it could be drug out, like it was drug out a little bit too much, maybe for me, my taste. But now I get why. And now that I know their story and where they come from and where Jeremy and Mason come from, like, I want these stories to be long and drawn out. I want all the details, all the gory details. So yeah, like I said, I don't want to say too much about this book, but I will say, let me go here. I will say that Jeremy is a twin. He lost his twin in some kind of way. I'm not gonna say how. It's in there. It's in the beginning of the story. You know that Jeremy's twin sister is gone. Did she go missing? Is she dead? We don't know. We don't get any background about this. We just know that it was Jeremy's twin sister, and her and Mason were together. Her name is Izzy. In this third book, we kind of go back in time to their childhood and when they met. So Jeremy, Izzy, and Waylon have been, you know, friends since they can remember. I mean, of course, Jeremy and Izzy, because they are twins. Waylon came into the picture. You really have to know Waylon's story to understand how he is in this book. Otherwise, I don't feel like you would get him or understand what he's going through in this third book. You really need to know his story in the first two books, so I won't go into that. Will kind of came in, he was kind of like a blur in this third book. You don't get much of Will, you get more of his backstory in the first two books. So this is just basically Izzy, Jeremy, Waylon, and Mason's story, because they were all friends since they were like 5 and 6 years old. And this is like them from growing up from 5 or 6 to adulthood. And what happens, sorry, you don't get what happened, you don't really understand what happens as far as Izzy goes in this book. You do a little bit, but there's another book that I will talk about in another video that has to do with Izzy's story. But anyway, this was just delicious. I love Jeremy and Mason. Now, I will say in this book, I didn't particularly like Izzy. I felt like she was too pushy for both Jeremy and Mason. I felt like she was too pushy for both of them. And I just felt like she got in the way of like what Mason was trying to figure out, his feelings. Like he knew, like Jeremy was actually the one Mason first met. And he knew he was drawn to him, and that was like his best friend. And even though him, Izzy and Waylon sort of became better acquaintances, Jeremy was always there, but Jeremy always just kind of kept to himself. And there was always that longing from Mason wanting to be with Jeremy. But it was like Izzy was pulling him away from that, and like he couldn't feel what he truly needed to feel about Jeremy. And that's kind of what the third book is about, is just their journey to their friendship, and then throughout what happens with Izzy and beyond that. And that's all I really can say. But just know, okay, the book is over 700 pages long. To me, I needed all 700 and some pages or more, in my opinion. When I fall for characters, I fall. I want all of it. Just like in Wrath, a lot of people said that book was too long. It's like one of my all-time favorite books. It was not long enough for me. I want all the gory details about these characters. So of course, 5 stars for Every Breath After. Now there are some novellas. Definitely go check out Jessie Walker's page if you want to dive into the Lost Boys, because I was confused at what order. I mean, you know, you gotta read Will and Way's story first. But there are some novellas in there. There's like 2 novellas and another book that people said was a standalone, but it's not a standalone. It goes with this story, and that's the book I'm going to talk about in another video because I didn't read it until August, or this month actually. I'm talking about all the books I read in July right now. So we'll talk about that other book in another video. So, okay, let's keep going because I could talk about this book or this series, like, because I absolutely love it. Okay, next up, The House in the Pines by Anna Reyes. I gave this 2.5 stars. It just didn't do it for me. I don't know why I kept going, why I didn't DNF it. The whole plot of the story intrigued me. Like, I wanted to know what happened, but like everything else in the book was just kind of like a filler. Like, I had no interest in whatever was happening. So we're following Maya. Is that her name? Yes, Maya is our narrator. We're following her in present time 7 years later. We do get some timeline. We're going to go back 7 years to when Maya and her best friend were on like their summer break, I believe. Her best friend's name was Aubrey, and they meet this guy named Frank, or Maya meets this guy named Frank. We're jumping 7 years later, and Maya sees Frank in a YouTube video just talking to like this young woman, and she just drops dead. 7 years ago, her best friend Aubrey was kind of doing the same thing, like talking to Frank, and just she was gone. And for 7 years, Maya has just been, you know, beside herself trying to figure out what happened, because there was never really, they could never really find out anything. They just said like something like heart failure or whatever. But Maya is determined this guy Frank was somehow behind her friend's death. And now that she's seen this video, this is all in the synopsis, but now that she's seen this video, she's determined that something's up with this Frank guy. And then there's also, you know, Maya dealing with how she feels about this and how she's coping with it, which is not good. Alcohol abuse, drug abuse, kind of. But I was just intrigued with like what was up with this Frank guy. I wanted to find out. So yeah. But lo and behold, since I gave it a 2.5 star, the plot twist at the end was just kind of like. Then I picked up One Perfect Couple by Ruth Ware. I haven't found a Ruth Ware to live up to The Turn of the Key yet. I'm not saying this one does, but this one is probably second best to The Turn of the Key. I did have a good time with this one, although part 1 of this book is way more interesting than part 2. So we're really following Lila here. Lila is a virologist, so she specializes in viruses, and she's not doing so hot in her career. She has a actor boyfriend, Nico, but he's also not doing very well in his career. He gets an opportunity to do like this reality TV show called One Perfect Couple, where these couples are asked to go to this private island. I think there's 5 couples altogether. 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, there's 5 couples altogether, and most of these people have something like there's some sort of something, like they're either an influencer on YouTube or some sort of social media influencer. I think we have a beauty influencer, a fitness influencer, like a yoga influencer. And we do have like our normal people, kind of like Lila is, you know, like just a scientist, but I mean, that's fantastic, even though she's not doing great in her career. We do have like one of the couples, one of them is a teacher, and then of course Nico is trying his best at becoming an actor, and he's thinking that this show is going to really put him out there. So off they go to this island, but right away things don't seem right. From the first day, they like take away their phones, any type of communication they can't have. It just seems a little fishy. Things start to happen from there. So part 1 is just basically like getting to know all the characters, which I thought was fascinating, and what happens kind of like once they get there. I really enjoyed reading that part. And we also sort of get some SOS entries where the couples are, something's going on, but we don't know what's happening yet. Of course, a storm is coming. We're on a secluded island. It was feeling really exciting. But the whole plot twist of it all, once again, just really didn't do it for me. I mean, the story in itself was really good and I had a good time. And of course, Imogen Church narrates all of Ruth Ware's books, and she is a fantastic narrator. So I loved listening to this. It was just a great time. I really did enjoy myself. I gave it, what did I give this book? 4 stars. Yeah, just because I wasn't fully, I was just kind of meh about the whole plot twist thing, but all in all, I had a good time with the book. The next couple books I'm going to talk about are crazy town. I'm talking like, I couldn't, a part of the time I couldn't wrap my head around what was happening. So we have 2 books by Sandy Jones that I read back to back, just because once I read The Guilt Trip, I had to jump into another one of her books. So I jumped into The Blame Game. But we'll talk about The Guilt Trip first. So in this book, we have a few couples that are going on a trip to, I don't want to say that, to, they're not in the wedding, but to like, you know, just be there for their friends. Their friends are doing like a destination wedding. Destination wedding. That's what I'm trying to think of. Their friends are doing a destination wedding on this beautiful island. And so they, you know, they all go and start having, you know, like the dinner parties and the rehearsal suppers and preparing for the big day. So our first we have Rachel and Jack. Yes, Rachel and Jack. It's Jack's brother that's getting married. I think his name is Will. He is marrying Allie, which actually Jack used to work with, or Allie used to work for Jack. Then we have Paige and Noah, who are basically just friends. Actually, Rachel and Noah have been like the best of friends since college, and they stayed friends, which now like their other halves are, they're just all good friends. So see, I'm getting confused. Paige and Noah and Rachel and Jack. So Rachel and Noah are the best friends, and then we have Jack and Paige, who are just kind of along for the ride, but they've all become friends over the years. And then of course Will and Allie. Something is not right with Allie. Something seems to be up with Allie, the way she's acting. You almost feel like there's something that's going on between her and maybe one of the other people in the couples. You almost feel that way. But it's crazy town. I kept going back and forth, like what is up with this chick? What is she looking for? What is her motive? Like what is happening? It was very, like, I was into it. It was very exciting. It wasn't like necessarily thrilling until we get to like the very end, when action starts to go down. Like literally some action starts to happen after the wedding ceremony. Something like just goes down, and secrets are finally coming out to the surface, and you're finally figuring out like the puzzle is slowly but surely being put together. And I love books like that. I love stories like that, where in the beginning it's just kind of like you meeting all these characters and what they mean to each other, and the crazy stuff that's happening around them, and then it all just starts to fall into place. And there's kind of like gasping moments throughout the book. That's how I felt with this book, as well as the next 2 books. But yeah, 4.5 stars for this one. Just because I did get a little, not saying bored, but I was getting to the point of like, okay, like nothing's happening. We're not getting like is somebody gonna die? Is somebody dying here? Are we gonna have a mystery? Like, what is happening? Like, I wasn't sure where we were going, and then I was like, oh, okay. That was really good. 4.5 stars. Okay, then we get to the blame game. And oh my goodness, it's suspenseful. I feel like it's a very psychological type of thriller, which I really enjoy, like kind of like getting into your mind and really like messing with it kind of thing. So in this story, we follow Naomi. Naomi is a psychologist. She specializes in domestic abuse patients, is what her patients are. And she is actually seeing a man right now who is being abused by his wife, which I really thought was clever, because you don't hear about that a lot. You don't see that a lot. So I really liked, you know, the flipping of the roles, and just to see how a woman could manipulate a man like that. But I'm sure they have some very manipulative women out there that can really do some damage. Naomi is very passionate about what she does, and she really wants to help her patients. She actually comes from a domestic abusive household. Her father was abusive to her mother, so she went into this study so she could help others cope with, and maybe even help them with trying to get away or getting help of some sort. But she kind of puts herself in a little bit of a pickle. You know, I mean, I get wanting to help people, but sometimes you have to, like, there's a boundary, you know, there's a line somewhere. You know, she's offering up her home without talking to her husband, and I'm like, oh girl, no, you need to converse with the husband. And of course, her past does come into play with this. She did have a little sister, so there's a backstory about that. It's just, there's not as many characters as in The Guilt Trip, but just the events that were taking place, and it was just twists and turns at every corner. Like, I felt like I was gasping all the time, and when I got to the end, I was just like, what? Crazy. 5 stars. This is even crazier. Freaking Crazy Town. This is The Teacher by Frida McFadden. This is also my first Frida McFadden read, so I will be jumping into more Frida McFadden. But oh my goodness, when I went into this, I was not expecting what I got. Because it actually does kind of start off a little slow, but wow. Just wow. Like, I don't even know where to start with this book. Okay, so we have a couple, and they are both teachers. Eve and Nate. Eve is a math teacher. Nate is an English teacher. Eve is quite the bit of a character. She comes off as a bitch, sort of. I feel like she's not very friendly towards her students. Maybe it's just math teachers. I had a bitch of a math teacher. I mean, maybe it's just math in general. But I loved English, and English was my favorite subject and one of my favorite teachers. So here we have Nate, who is, you know, he's loved by all the students at the school because he's laid back, and he makes class fun. And then we also have, is it Allie? No, Addie, getting characters mixed up. So we have a student named Addie. Something went down the year before, causing one of the teachers to have to retire early. That's basically how they put it. So whatever went down involving this teacher and Addie is causing her to get bullied for this new school year that's starting. So when she goes to her English class, which her teacher is Nate, she finds comfort in the class and in Nate himself. He sort of like takes her in and, you know, helps her, I guess, blossom in her writing. She writes poetry, so he gets her to join, like he has like I think there's some sort of poetry newsletter or something with the school that he's in charge of, so he gets her to join, which kind of gives her a friend and one of the students in there. So you're thinking, okay, great, Nate's this great guy. Eve is not. But as the story of all these characters unfold, we even get a little bit of backstory of our bully, which her name is Kenzie. Of course, she's like the popular girl in school, and she seems to be dating Hudson, who is Addie's, or who was Addie's best friend up until this incident that took place. But there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of details to this story, and it's crazy town. Like I think that's all I can tell you. You just need, I just gave you the gist of the characters and their role in this book, and then things start to unfold, and what seems to be is actually not. I don't know how to describe it, but it was crazy town, and I loved every minute of it. Like you thought you knew what was coming, but you really don't know what's coming, and no, you didn't know. Like, completely gasping moment towards the end. There's a couple twists towards the end that were gasp worthy, but like the main one was just like really, like, I actually clutched my pearls, if you will, because I was like, what? Anyway, great time with this story. I did listen to this on audio. I don't remember who narrated it, but oh, I wrote it down. I did write it down. Leslie Howard did a fantastic job with narrating this book, and I will be reading more Frida McFadden in the very near future. And lastly, but not least at all, because it did come to me very soon after my Bella's passing, my sweet cousin Allison sent me Cat Heaven by Cynthia Rylant. She lost her precious puppy a couple years ago, and there is a dog heaven as well as a cat heaven, and she said this sort of helped her cope with what was happening. And it really did. When I got it just made my heart swell. Just to get it, that I knew someone out there knew what I was feeling and was right there with me, and knew what I needed at the right moment. This was such a sweet little story about a cat's journey to heaven, and it's just what I pictured for my Bella. It's just what I needed in the moment that it came to me. I loved it so much, and every time I read it, I was going to read it for y'all, but I don't know if that's copyright or not. So I'm not gonna do that, but it's just so sweet and perfect, and I couldn't thank my cousin enough for sending me this precious gift that I will always have in memory of my Bella. So yes, if you or a loved one or a friend are grieving over their lost pet babies, fur babies, look up Cynthia Rylant and send them a book, because it really does help. So yeah, my last read for the month of July, although I still pick this up every now and then and flip through it just so I can be reminded of where my sweet baby is. Okay, y'all, I'm done. I made it through somewhat. Thank y'all for sticking to the end with me of this video. Thank y'all for the condolences on Instagram, and just checking in. But I am doing well, and slowly but surely coming back coming back into the world. So hopefully you'll be seeing much more of me. I hope y'all are all doing well out there. Hugs all around from me as always, and I will see y'all very, very soon in another video. Bye y'all.